Capcom is the greatest third-party video game developer of all time, in this reviewer's opinion. 1943, Ghosts and Goblins, Final Fight, Mega Man, Street Fighter, Resident Evil. Capcom's rap sheet is the stuff of legends. But of all their achievements, few acknowledge one of the company's most impressive, the 1-2 punch of DuckTales and Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, two of the greatest licensed games of all time. Most developers can't yield one decent licensed game. Capcom made two classics. But if you've already seen my reviews of those games, you know this. Hell, you knew that before I made them. Disney and Capcom had one of the most significant and fruitful partnerships in all of gaming. And though DuckTales and Rescue Rangers represent the best of the best, it is staggering how many great games came as a result of this partnership. Now I bet some of you are asking yourselves, wait a minute, didn't Capcom make that shitstorm, Mickey Mouscapade? Well, trust me, I ain't here to defend this garbage. If you've only heard about it and never actually played it, then rest assured what you've heard is true. It is a terrible, terrible game. However, Mickey Mousecapade was actually developed by Hudson Soft. Capcom only published it in America. Now it's rumored that Mousecapade was a hit for Capcom and may have been what spurred their partnership with Disney in the first place. If that's actually true, then I think we all owe this game a small amount of appreciation. I'm not saying you should own it or play it unless you're a nerd like me, just have a little respect for it. Either way, it predates all of the Disney Capcom games, with the exception of only a few all come highly recommended. Alright, that's enough of this shit. Ugh. I'm not gonna lie to you here. Capcom made a ton of games for Disney, and I don't have them all. I can only review what I own, but I do have a large chunk of them right here. So how about it? First up, let's get dangerous with good old DW, the king of Disney cartoon cool. '92's Darkwing Duck can be described as a poor man's Mega Man. There's a stage select like a Mega Man, you run, jump, and shoot just like Mega Man, even the levels and enemies resemble some found in Mega Man. But DW's got some moves the old Blue Bomber didn't. Not only can he duck, pun intended, he can also grab and hang off of platforms. DW's ability to grapple onto platforms is a major part of the game, giving it an almost Gunstar Heroes or Strider feel sometimes. Capcom took this mechanic and really ran with it, constructing some really fun and challenging levels and boss fights. The game is loaded with action and platforming. Some of these aspects are used a year later in DuckTales 2. Another neat thing, DW's got that snazzy cape, but it ain't just for decoration, it can block enemy fire. Holy crap, it deflects knives! Let the discussion begin. Who would win in a fight, DW or Rick Taylor from Splatterhouse? Probably Rick. I know I probably say this a lot, but I really mean it here. Darkwing Duck has one of the most overlooked soundtracks on the NES. Seriously, there is some classic stuff here. Each of the 7 main stages all have amazing tracks. Remixers and cover bands take notice, especially that ending theme. But you get that Rescue Rangers vibe here. Tons of great tunes, except they're all pretty short. So if I may make a suggestion to remixers and cover bands, medley? The look of the game matches the look of the cartoon very well. Each stage boss is a different villain from the show, which is a nice touch. It's even got my boy Launchpad right there. It once again shows that Capcom knows how to keep a game faithful to its license without compromising for solid gameplay. But like I said earlier, Darkwing Duck is pretty much a poor man's Mega Man. The biggest problem with Darkwing Duck is it's pretty tough, but not that good. Journey to Silius or Star Tropics kind of tough. It's a toughness that comes from a lack of polish. In a review like this, it's pretty much impossible to describe the controls other than a little stiff, but take my word for it, they're a little stiff. Go a couple rounds with DW and then go a couple rounds with the Blue Bomber and you'll see what I mean. But I wonder if this isn't just my problem. Like, it feels so much like a Mega Man game, maybe my brain has just been conditioned to think that it'll play as tight as Mega Man, which it unfortunately does not. DW's got that snazzy cape, but cool as it may be, it really isn't necessary. You see, not only can you not shoot while you're moving, you can't shoot while you're blocking with your cape either. Now that wouldn't be such a huge issue, but you can use your cape in midair, so very often you'll find yourself wanting to jump and shoot at something but can't because you accidentally pushed up when you left the ground. It requires you to be really precise with your controls, far more than you would if you were playing Mega Man. Oddly enough though, this problem was fixed in the Game Boy port. And since jumping works just fine and you can duck, I rarely use the cape and often forget that it's there, except when I'm trying to shoot at something and I can't. So, cool as that cape may be, I'm with Edna Mode on this one. There's also a few balancing issues. A lot of common enemies take a few too many hits to take down, and most bosses require a lot of hits. DW, on the other hand, only has 4 for the whole game. Add in a pretty short post-damage blinking time and sometimes questionable hit detection, and you've got a game that's pretty tough, and again, for all the wrong reasons. If this duck had had a few more months to cook, it would have been a bona fide classic, but as it stands, it just misses the mark from getting a full video review from me. But it still comes highly recommended and is an essential title for die-hard action fans and Mega Man fans. Rule of thumb, any game or cartoon with Launchpad is worth your time. I agree. Job well done, Capcom. Alright, next up we got The Little Mermaid. Now I bet a lot of you never thought a game based on The Little Mermaid would be any good. And while it won't set your world on fire, it's actually pretty damn good. And for the record, this movie, much like Beauty and the Beast, are really fucking good. When the hell did that happen? This one was clearly made for the kids, as it's a pretty easy and short 5-level affair, but it's still solid. An interesting note about this game is it was made years after the movie, a fact that some like to complain about. Really? I'm sure this game is better because it wasn't made to coincide with the movie's release, which is something I think that dooms most movie licensed games in the first place. Actually, this may be the reason why the opening cinema doesn't follow the movie or really make much sense. Otherwise, there really isn't much to say about The Little Mermaid on the NES, other than if you see it at a thrift store or a flea market, don't pass it by. The most noteworthy thing about The Little Mermaid? It's not total garbage, like I'm sure most people would expect it to be. But they all can't be zingers. Tailspin is garbage. I'll give Capcom an A for effort, but that's about it. There are 2 main gimmicks in Tailspin, and neither really work. One is the ability to switch the direction you're flying, and the other is the ability to shoot diagonally. Both of these are actually very uncommon in shooters, and there's a reason. Since moving up or down tilts you diagonally, it makes it very hard to, shoot what's directly in front of you. Furthermore, switching your direction is a major part of the game, but you can't switch directions while you're tilted diagonally. So get ready to die all the time because you weren't able to switch directions when you needed to. To answer the eternal question, what were they thinking? They weren't. It makes an otherwise average game into a complete waste of time. You're better off playing 1943, Legendary Wings, Life Force, and Zanuck. It's not much better, but I'd say the Genesis version is more worth your time. But that wasn't made by Capcom, so I won't discuss it here. Bottom line, stick to the cartoon. There is definitely one game I really want to talk about. Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. I really want to talk about this game because it gets a fucking bum rap. For those of you in the dark, Adventures in the Magic Kingdom isn't a game based off a Disney cartoon, but was rather a series of different mini-games based on the attractions at Disney amusement parks, like Space Mountain and Pirates of the Caribbean. And all I see are videos and reviews whining about how broken and terrible this game is. Man, I don't know what the hell everybody else has been playing, but I'm here to set the record straight. It's not the greatest thing out there, and yeah, I hated it when I was a kid too, but I still recommend it over Tailspin and Rescue Rangers 2. The biggest complaint seems to be that the Pirates of the Caribbean stage is impossible because you're completely defenseless against unavoidable enemies in the second part of the level. Well, am I the only person who knows about the candle located right here? Look, here's how you get to it. And it never runs out like in the Haunted Mansion. After this, the level becomes too easy. And speaking of the Haunted Mansion, another common complaint is the part where you're attacked by the flying books is impossible. For the record, it's not, but admittedly is a little cheap. But again, am I the only person who noticed the power-ups you can buy at the pause screen? Those stars you're collecting ain't just for decoration, you know. So if you're having trouble with the floating chair part, just turn yourself invincible. If you can't make those jumps, then that's your problem. Another common complaint I see is that you'll run out of candles fending off the flying books, leaving you defenseless. I never had this problem, not even when I was a kid. If you just skip over the grasping hands instead of wasting candles killing them, you'll have plenty. But hey, I'm not saying this game is flawless. The hit detection is sometimes worse than Darkwing Duck, The Big Thunder Mountain stage is pretty much a gamble, and Space Mountain requires some real concentration and quick reflexes. But I feel some of you just can't get over your childhood memories. Yes, it was a game made for kids, and yes, it was way too hard for us back then. I can't dispute that because I hated it when I was little too. But when I play this game nowadays, I can't help but admit that I honestly enjoy it. If you've played it and hated it, clear your head of those bad childhood memories and give it another go. It's probably not as bad as you remember it. And if you've never played it before, give it a shot. It's really not as bad as people make it out to be. And either way, it's super cheap, so if you don't like it, you only got a few bucks. Oh, and it's got a damn good soundtrack.